Okay, welcome everybody. This is our February 6th, 2024 board briefing. Please let the record reflect that Commissioners Jordan, French, and Kearns are present. We should be joined shortly by Commissioner Waldrop, but we are going to lead off today with a presentation from Mike Burgess on our 2024 legislative priorities. So take it away, Mike.
Thank you. Morning, commissioners. Just jump right into it. Today is day 30 of session, the official 60-day, halfway point of the 60-day session. Passed another big milestone yesterday, biggest one of session so far. That is the fiscal committee cutoff. So a number of the bills that are on our list that we've been talking about might not be moving anymore. And this is the part now where they've transitioned to being out on the House and Senate floor. They'll be out there till the 13th. And then after that, I bet we see a budget rollout either, later that week. So around the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, something like that, as we will see one of the budgets come out first. And then normally see the opposite body. I can't remember who goes first, the Senate or the House this year. And then we'll see the opposite one a few days later. And we'll really focus on budget and then also keep working on the bills that are left. Do have a new bill that wanted to bring your attention to. It's 6251. The title is Coordinating Regional Behavioral Crisis Response Services. Is Justin there, I hope?
He's online. He's online.
Oh, he's online. Okay. I mean, in the simplest form, the bill streamlines, to my understanding, it streamlines the 988 system. It probably brings in line with some things I think you're already doing in your region, is the way it was explained to me. But Justin, please fill in. I mean, but what I would add, commissioners, the bill's moving. I don't see any problems with the bill. I think you would support it. But I just wanted to make sure I run that by you before we add it to our list. So, yeah, thanks, Justin.
Yeah, good morning, commissioners, and thanks, Mike. So really, the bill is working with the Department of Health and assigning and directing authority on who should be promoting the hubs, the 988 hubs, very specific to the crisis bill that was passed a couple years ago that allowed for 988 services to go through one service there, 988 instead of the 10-digit RCL, which Spokane County currently funds with partnership with Medicaid and our non-Medicaid dollars to the state of Washington. The expectation is that will diminish and that 988 will be the front-facing. But currently, DOH has sole authority on directing who those hubs are. This bill expands that authority to allow for the regional ASOs, which would be the oversight of the Board of County Commissioners, Spokane County, to direct who that hub would be. Currently, that is FBH, which is also our RCL, and we want to maintain that authority and line of direction, but more importantly, maintain the regional authority for the RSAs, the county specific, to have say in them. Otherwise, an outside entity from King County could be directed, and we would have no say in that process. Having a regional provider that not only dispatches, but also does all of our regional crisis lines for the last 10 years seems reasonable and prudent to allow for that authority to rest, again, with the regional authority in our ASL, which is the Board of County Commissioners. It also has been an issue with the state that DOH has not been clear in receiving feedback on this. So although we have been requesting consistent direction on who they will be assigning and having say, we have not been included in all those conversations. Again, this really just redefines that decisions need to be made and authority needs to rest with those that are affected and impacted in the counties receiving the service. For us, we're unique. So ultimately, this would just follow along what we're already receiving. I don't expect any impact to our region, either if this passes or does not, other than if DOH decides to make a unilateral change without input. That's where the significant impact would feel in the future. Again, they've not indicated, but this just ensures that that does not occur.
So commissioners, I'd like, with your permission, obviously, I'd like to add it to our list as a bill we're supporting. If you're comfortable doing that.
You have any concerns?
Not if Justin doesn't.
Commissioner French, any comments on this one? Okay, I think you can,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hit all the buttons. Yeah, no, I'm fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thanks, commissioners. I figured as much. So we'll jump then to the longer bill list that's on the screen in front of you. If we could, let's come back to 1899 because there's another link we wanted to view there. But just 1952 and 2020, both part of the fire response or fit under that umbrella of the bills we supported. Those bills continue to move. The tourism promotion exemption bill also moving, so that's good news. One that is not going to move is 2211. That's that criminal justice local option tax issue we've talked about a little bit in a little greater detail last week. 2211 and then its companion that's lower on the list, 6076. Neither of those bills moved. And so they are almost assuredly, well, knock on wood the time I say stuff like that, but pretty unlikely that these bills will come up as session moves on. So I'll drop them off the list of the high priority bills, and they'll still be on my list, but we likely will not be talking about those anymore this session. The 911 bill is on the House floor. Heard that there's a possibility that the bill could come up for a vote. I believe if they haven't caucused on it, they may soon. In my world, when you hear that they're caucused on a bill, when the majority does that, that means that's a bill they're really talking about doing and serious about moving. So I have relayed our concerns, continue to do that on that bill. But there is a chance it'll be voted off the House floor in the next few days, if the information I got was true. 2283, also part of the disaster response. That's the one that let the workers share their leave. The pre-judgment interest bill 5059 did not move. I'll keep it on the list though, because it's got a fiscal impact enough. And so there's a possibility it could be referenced in the budget. So we'll watch that one to see if it's one of the budget assumptions. And at that point, I'll move it either on or off the list. The next one on the next, or the 5792, that's Patton's condo bill. It's moving. That's good. And then same with 5834, that's the land swap bill. And as I mentioned, gonna drop 6076 off now. And then I'll drop 6124 off because its House companion is moving. And then same with 6202. That's the House or the Senate version of that. Well, actually, wait a minute. It's moving too. They're both moving. So I'll leave it on, but at one point, one of those two will probably drop off. It's unlikely they would move both bills. So that's kind of the quick update there. If we want to transition back to 1899, and then that other link I sent yesterday, the bill was moved from appropriations to the Rules Committee. And continues to work its way through the process. Some changes were made to the bill. In particular, the emergency clause was removed, and then and the references to the Climate Commitment Act were changed. And then the bill was then amended to take advantage of some rulemaking that's already going on in some of that response. So, Ron, do you have that link? Or
When did you send it?
It was in the email I sent with the agenda.
Oh, I got it.
Sorry. Perfect. Thank you. So this is what the top 3 bullet points are what the bill does now. Still certainly does not go back to the original bill language. But I think that there's some realities of what is possible with this bill. And from the information I've gathered, we can continue to push for other options, or to go, to go closer to the original document or the original bill, but I don't know that that's going to be fruitful. I think this is the reality of what can be done in the House. But remember, the bill does have to go over to the Senate and can continue to work on it there to try to improve the bill. If, you know, would certainly like your input. But as I mentioned, I think that right now, this is probably the reality of what can pass the House, at least from what I've been told.
All right, any thoughts? Looking for that link.
He sent it to me.
Oh, just you, okay,
It's the bill that we had last week on the substitute.
okay. Can you scroll down a little bit? There we go.
So I know it does respond, Commissioner Kearns, to a few of the things you specifically had mentioned in your testimony. And again, I know it's not what we, ultimately would like, but just wanted to add that caveat.
Commissioner French?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill is clearly not what we were hoping for in terms of helping the residents that have been impacted by both the Gray and Oregon fires. And as I indicated, I think last week, maybe the week before, I'm wondering if we should prepare to do something similar to what we did with Hearst in terms of accommodating folks that get drawings in by March 15th. And that way, then they avoid this whole bill by being able to get vested into the current code. We've got basically a month and a week to help these folks out. And I'm just thinking that that might be our best path forward instead of waiting for the legislature. By the time the legislature gets done, we'll only have a week left to respond. And that's not very fair to the residents out there that are still languishing in terms of how to move forward. So that's just my observation. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts essentially, I mean, the original version of 1899 was something that would have helped everybody impacted by the fire because it was a delay of the building codes for everyone. This grant program, I mean, it's going to be contingent on how much money is there. In the original one, I think I saw that it also it was going to be means tested. And so, I mean, it just narrows the scope of the amount of folks that can be helped. So, but I mean, if it's what's going to pass, I mean, I guess it's one of those. It's something's better than nothing passing.
So then, commissioners, am I hearing then from you that continue to work to try to improve the bill and go back as close to the original as we can, but realizing if that's not a possibility, voice our support, but our support is a measured support, maybe is the way to put it.
I'm fine with it. Anybody have any objections to that?
I'll just add, I think we all want the best form of relief that can pass. And so if that's what this is, I still support it because it's something. So I think we should just keep monitoring it and see what emerges in the Senate.
Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you. Next, a list of the public defense bills. Commissioner French, you had in particular brought this up last week, and I acknowledge that there was a list or a handful of bills and wanted to run through those with you really quickly. And then if there's any you want to add to the list, just flag them for me. The first one, 1911 and its companion 5914. I don't know that one does much on the funding side and expansion of public defense. And I think Commissioner French, that's probably why you were asking, not opposed to the procedures. So as I can tell, I'm no attorney, but it sounds like 1911 does exactly what the title says there. So it seems like a more mechanical bill than a funding bill. Certainly you could support that if you'd wanted to, but I don't think that's why you raised the issue.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry?
I just agreeing with you that it's
Yeah.
not.
Okay. The next one, is the bill that was kind of the larger funding bill, that had kind of the ramp up per year and percentages. It's a Senator Torres's bill. It did not make it out of the Law and Justice Committee. It might not even gotten a hearing. Pretty unlikely then that that bill goes forward. But what I'm wondering is if there might not be some money in the budget. So I'll look at, Office of Public Defense specifically when the budget comes out. But this was what I guess I would call the broader funding bill. And then the next two, 5780 and 5781, seem to do very similar things. But 5780 is the one moving, and it creates just exactly what that says. Well, it creates a rural defense, public defense program, almost like, incentivizing graduates to go participate in the more underserved parts of the state. That are probably more geographically difficult and things like that. And then the last one is an indigent defense task force. And that bill didn't make it out of committee. I think there's probably some realities given the legal action that's been taken on the indigent defense issue. So, Commissioner French, specifically, there's frankly not a lot moving on that, but I think on the public defense issue, but we'll want to look to see what ends up in the budget. And, I did kind of a high level look into this. I have some more digging to do. So this is kind of my preliminary, update on this, but we'll keep digging and provide you more information.
Mr. French?
Yeah, and thank you, Michael, for the summary, but there are, there's a lot of conversation going on with regard to two specific bills. One is the public defender getting more money into indigent defense. And I can talk about the details around that more if we can do that in executive session, because there is litigation going on relative to that. So the litigation might have an impact on what actually the state ends up doing. The other bill is getting some attention, and that is incentivizing people to get into the profession of either public defense or prosecution. We are light on both sides of the equation. And so there are conversations about either providing grant money to get people into the profession or providing relief for if you agree to work for a certain period of time in some of the counties that are lacking in terms of public defense or prosecution for that. So that has got a lot of attention, and I would not be surprised to see something emerge out of that. Part of it's going to have a fiscal impact, so I'm sure that that's going to weigh in on whether it gets any legs or not. But there's a lot of attention toward that, and recognition across the state that that's a hole that needs to get filled desperately. So if we have an opportunity for executive session, I can take about 5 minutes and update you on the litigation side of the equation. Thank you.
And Commissioner, if it's okay, just to add, so yeah, a lot of this is gonna be very budget driven. I understand there's this other issue going on too with litigation, but that's what, as I mentioned, we'll see that budget in a couple weeks, the first budget proposal. So we'll take a look there closely, and then at that point, I'll report back to you about what was in the budget with regard to that. So other than that, commissioners, that's it for me. Things are starting to narrow here, so we'll be on the floor, like I said, for another week or so, and see what keeps moving and what doesn't.
Okay, any final questions?
What's the last day of session?
March 7th, Thursday, March 7th.
So about 3 weeks from when budget gets released.
Yeah, that's pretty normal, Commissioner. In any session after the first floor cutoff, which is what we're, like I mentioned, is on the 13th. You almost always see the budgets right after that.
Sounds
So
good.
And the supplemental budget is not near as, you know, is not near as thorough, I guess. I don't know what word to use, but it just, because it's making more adjustments and changes. You know, for instance, a given agency could have in the biennial budget, you know, say 25 provisos or 25 spending items. In this budget, those same 25 will be there, but then there'll be adjustments, say to 2 or 3 to that agency. So it's just not near as much of the volume. That's why the session's shorter at the end of the day. So.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mike. Keep fighting
Okay.
over there.
We'll see you. Thank you, commissioners. Have a good day.
All right, bye. Okay, we've been joined by Wes and Anna. If you want to, you can come up to the table too.
Sit at the big people's table.
Yeah. All right, so we asked Wes to come in and give us an update on the MAC and some of the things that we helped him out with over the last year. So, Wes, take it away.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. It's great to be here. I was recently sharing with you about the recent success of an exhibition, the Minecraft exhibition, and so I was invited in to talk a little bit about that because we finished it in December, and the county was a great partner for that. So I just have a few slides to share with you, some information that might kind of give you a sense of the impact of this exhibition, which came onto our radar this is funny, it came onto the radar in February of 2020. And just an interesting month, quickly followed by the COVID situation. And it's an exhibition it was organized by the Museum of Popular Culture in Seattle, and we pursued it to travel to Spokane. Anyways, it went on a national tour. It was an exhibition that was pretty far beyond our means as an organization, and so we approached the county, and it was during the distribution of ARPA funds. So we were able to secure that exhibition, which frankly would have been pretty impossible without the county. So the exhibition really was a game changer for us. Leading up into 2023, it opened in September. And this is, if you've been reading about cultural organizations across the country, there's been a real challenge to kind of get back to normal after COVID. It's just been hard getting people back in the doors. And so if you want to go to the next slide, ARPA was a huge factor with a grant to us in the amount of $300,000. Also, the county helped to fund the exhibition with a $25,000 grant. From the beginning, we made this about county families. We made it about turning Spokane and the MAC into a regional destination where people would travel from beyond 200 miles and spend the night, so that there would be an economic benefit to this show coming. And in fact, by the numbers, we did make an impact during the short 3 months that this exhibition was up. So if you want to go to the next slide. So basically, this was our biggest exhibition ever in the history of the MAC, based on a per day attendance, which was 541 people a day. So basically about 41,000 people. And you can see there's a line in this photo out the door. And this was, again, comprised of people, primarily from the city and county, but also a lot of tourists that were coming from outside. So I think, when you look at that per day attendance, which is the true measure of an exhibition's performance, it really does match up and exceed even our biggest exhibitions that we've brought in recent years. Go ahead and go to the next slide. I can barely see that, but I do know that the first column, this is attendance compositions. So the first large column is the city of Spokane, but then following that, 4216 from the county, non-city county people. So we did have great attendance from that group as well. And then even going over to the far column, which is over 2,000 people that traveled here from outside of a 200-mile radius to stay in Spokane. That's how we gauge overnight stays, is over 200 miles. So there could have been overnight stays with that third column, but that's kind of how we think about an exhibition like this contributing to the local and regional economy. If you want to go to the next slide. And just some other things was that this really put us back on track with the schools in the county. And our ability to bring school kids, a lot of the Title I schools are not able to afford to come to the MAC. And so part of the ARPA grant was to help fund school buses and to help pay for admission. And it's not enough to say, we're gonna cover your admission in this area. You actually have to pay for the bus too, if you want the kids to come. And so combined with ARPA, Anna went out and raised some money in the community. And we were able to fund as many school groups as could fit on the schedule. And every single spot was booked. So every single spot. So you can see we had thousands of students coming to this show, which was really great. And we think of ourselves as an educational resource in the community. Teachers and school districts lean on us heavily, especially when there are exhibitions that are interactive like this, science-based, as well as others as well. So if you want to go to the next slide. And this is just kind of to show you the success on a membership level. That last column is 2023, and we reached over 4,500 members this year, which is, again, a historic record for the MAC. The MAC has been around for over 100 years. And so these are numbers that really did take us to kind of the next level, thanks to the county. And that's pretty much it for Minecraft. But I did want to, if you just go to the next slide, we do have an exhibition that just opened, the Harold Belays exhibition, which opened last Saturday. And I do want to mention that the county did help to support this exhibition with a $25,000 grant. And this was a collection we're in the process of purchasing, and 30 pieces from a private collector. And this really keeps the Harold Belays legacy alive. He's Spokane's artist. He's our most famous artist. And this is another educational opportunity for us and a real great way to highlight regional, local artists. And the opening for this is this Friday night from 5:30 to 7:30. All the commissioners are invited. And we're going to have Josh say a few words at that. He's been working with us on these grants over the years. So just in short, want to thank the county for their support of the MAC. We see a great benefit to the county with our outreach to the schools and to families, and certainly Minecraft put it all at the next level. So that is pretty much all I have to share. If you have any questions for me or anything about the MAC or the exhibition, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Wes? I think we had a few more slides here about
Well, we can quickly go through some other future shows that are coming. And on May 5th, we open the 50th anniversary exhibition for Expo 74. The MAC, as you may or may not know, has the archive for Expo. So we have sort of everything Expo at the MAC. And this is a big celebration of what was a transformative Expo for the city. We're excited about that. If you go to the next slide. This is another artist who's opening this Friday, Ronaldo Gil Zambrano, who's a local artist who's been a great sort of creative force in the region. He's a printmaker, as you can see, and that is in a separate gallery from Harold Belays, but he's also an associate professor of art at Gonzaga and kind of an up-and-coming artist that we're highlighting. You want to go to the next slide? I think everyone will love our summer show, which is a 1970s car design exhibition, Driving the American Dream. So we've secured 11 classic 1970s cars for this exhibition. We're designing the gallery. Chris Bovey has given the whole thing a great 1970s showroom vibe that we're excited about. And this is really connected to the 1974 exhibition of the Expo, which is consistent kind of with this time period. And also just discussing, the Expo was about environmentalism, ecology, and the 70s were an interesting period in car design because of the oil embargo and what was going on and how things had to change. So it's a really fun show, I think also really educational. And then finally, I'm going to highlight this exhibition coming in the fall, which is Joe Feddersen, an OMAC artist who's really developed a national reputation at this point, and we are the MAC is organizing his career retrospective. He's 72 years old, and his work is in major museum collections, including the Whitney Museum, the Smithsonian Museum. Lately, he's being collected by everybody, and so the MAC is proud to organize this traveling exhibition. It'll originate in Spokane and travel to 4 other museums nationwide. So this is something the MAC's never done, and we're excited to champion our regional artists. And Joe is also a member of the Colville Federation of Tribes and has a really interesting perspective on art and life. And if you could see the middle piece on the bottom of this slide, it's a fish trap. And it's a beautiful, large hanging installation. It's actually at Spokane Falls Community College. And it's kind of hard to see in this image, but it's a wonderful piece of art. So championing regional artists and really celebrating creativity and innovation in the region. That's what we do. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Wes or Anna? Commissioner French?
Yeah, I just, the car show should be a lot of fun, and I just thought I'd share with the rest of the board, since none of them were around in the 70s, that in the 70s, they actually predicted, there was a fear that went across the country that by 1980, combustible engines would no longer exist. Yeah, that one turned out to be true, right? Yeah. So, but it just funny to see what we thought we were going to happen and what has really happened. So anyway, look forward to the show and that little pinto on the left, that's actually pinto bean. So anyway, thanks.
That's great. And I also want to mention that we're working hand in hand with several car clubs in the community. There's who knew Spokane had such an extensive group of car clubs, collectors. And so it's really kind of a community curated show.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
and as far as the Minecraft exhibit goes, though, when we had our employee night there,
Oh,
as
that's
everybody
right.
walked
That was
out,
fun.
everybody just said how much they loved it.
Yeah.
They excited going in and very happy coming out. It
Yeah.
was a fantastic event.
We love those employee nights. Those are really great. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Next on our agenda, we are joined by Chandra Fox. Chandra, looks like you're going to talk about hazard mitigation grant application and designation of applicant agent.
Yes, so good morning, everybody. So we are in the process of applying for a post-fire hazard mitigation grant. The grant will fund the regularly scheduled 5-year update of our county mitigation plan. Our plan is pretty special because it's a multi-jurisdiction plan. We have 15 planning partners who have annexed to the plan with us. It is FEMA approved. It has been FEMA approved since its first iteration. And that's important because that FEMA approval, that we have the plan and the FEMA approval of the plan allows us eligibility for quite a number of FEMA's hazard mitigation funding programs that if we did not have the plan, we would not have access to those programs. We're asking for $250,000 and that is a 75%, 12.5% cost share. Between the feds, we'll get the 75% from FEMA, the state will share 12.5%, and we'll cover the additional 12.5%. And that cost share will be provided through the time and effort of county staff who are working on the plan update. So it's my staff, it's GIS, it's obviously our planning department and public works. So that's how that cost share will work out. We do hire an outside consultant for this plan because it is a very technical plan. This is the only one of our plans that we hire a consultant for. We utilize Bridgeview Consulting, and they are the consultant who's done all 3 iterations of the plan. And they have a proprietary data analysis system that they utilize, and so it makes much more sense to stay with them than spending extra money on someone else who would come in and do the data analysis in a totally different way. And so it just makes more sense to stick with our consultant. The important piece with this plan update is we already do have a wildfire chapter in the plan because wildfire is obviously one of our primary hazards. We are enhancing that chapter with the essential elements of the CWPP, which is the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And we're doing that so in the future we can maintain 1 plan instead of 2. And so our hazard mitigation plan will then take the place of the CWPP But it will have all of the required elements for the community wildfire defense grants that are required. So it protects that funding stream as well. You will see the completed plan back in front of you in the spring because it is required to be adopted by resolution. So you'll see the plan when it's finished. And then just one last thing I want to bring to your attention. As part of this work with the mitigation plan on April 25th, we are going to be hosting a wildland fire workshop. And we're bringing in some national level experts to talk to us about what our wildland fire risk truly looks like in Spokane County. So it should be a good day. We'll start off in the morning with some wildfire work. We'll be providing a working lunch and we'll talk about community outreach and what we can do to educate our community on their responsibility around wildfire. And then in the afternoon, we'll transition to an actual work session on the new document itself. But that's April 25th, and you'll be seeing a flyer and registration for that as soon as we get it together. So, any questions?
Any questions for Chandra? Looks like we're good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, next up, agenda says Chris McKinney, Homeless Service Program Manager. Got George with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're gonna excuse Chris today. He's not feeling well, so we're gonna pinch hit and do the best that we can. I brought Kurt with us. So Kurt's been working with Chris on this application. So, so next slide, Ron. Effectively, what we're looking at is the possibility of applying for a grant through HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And really it's to support the Youth Homeless System Demonstration project. So this is something that the Spokane Regional Continuum of Care, which is administered over at the City of Spokane. This is something that they have within their portfolio. They have some capacity issues, so early when this grant opportunity came out, we engaged with the city and we accepted kind of a lead role in this to pursue the application and see if this is something that really meets some community needs as well as some of the just sustainability of funding sources. So in there you can see some of the bullet points of the different funding sources that are going, or interventions that are going into this. So we've got our coordinated entry, our host homes, our transitional and rapid rehousing, and then outreach, diversion, housing navigation, and really with the sole focus in this regard of youth homelessness. So Ron, if you could advance. And that confusing slide up there is just kind of some of the thought process that went into the Youth Homeless System Demonstration Project. So, so Kurt and Chris have been doing a lot of engagement with stakeholders to look at the needs, look at the funding opportunity, and try and align it in a way that makes sure that it makes the most sense for all parties involved. So we've got our youth advisory board. So this youth advisory board is really kind of tasked with how do we address youth homelessness and make sure that we're connecting folks to resources. There's also the youth. So the youth advisory board has been, I think, struggling to find a home for a little while. And so just recently, just last week, we learned that Spectrum Center has offered to be the host organization for the Youth Advisory Board. And then, so part of what we're doing here is we're looking at, applying for funds to bring on 1.5 additional FTEs to really help with the navigation, connecting youth that are experiencing homelessness to resources that are available. So some of the partners include the Continuum of Care, the McKinney-Bento homeless liaisons through the school districts. We've reached out to the Washington State Youth Homeless Program coordinator. We also reached out to the Idaho Balance of State, knowing that we've got some folks over in the Coeur d'Alene area that may be accessing resources. So we've been really aware and trying to work with our regional partners to make sure that we're putting together the best proposal possible. And then we've got the support and a lot of engagement with our local continuum of care leadership. Ron, if you want to advance. So here's really effectively our project proposal right now. One of the things I asked Kurt this morning, we were talking about this proposal, I said, what does success look like here? Recognizing that this grant has a duration of 30 months. And really what we're looking at as far as successful outcomes is a connection, an improved connection and coordination throughout our entire network of services for youth homelessness. So we recognize that this is a limited duration grant. And part of the challenge that we put to our partners as we've engaged with them is making sure that there's survivability beyond when these grant funds come to an end. So we're really focusing on long-term outcomes and making sure that we're not taking one-time funding and putting ourselves in position to underperform for the community. So really what we're looking for here is your support to continue on with this application process and submit it to HUD for consideration. Kurt, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think you covered everything.
Good. Any questions? Commissioner
Is
Jordan?
is there like an age range for what counts as youth homelessness? Is it unaccompanied youth who are older, or is it students in school? What does that mean?
Yes, so there is an age range. So youth would be considered like infant from I believe 18, so that would be youth homelessness. And then it would also accompany young adult homelessness, so that would be 20 to 25.
And the funds could be used to basically help or target any of the folks in that age range.
And one thing that's really important here is we're offering more like navigation of the entirety of the system as opposed to direct service provided through this.
And follow-up question,
Yeah.
what's the actual amount we're applying for?
So we're polishing up some of the numbers there, but approximately $200,000 is what we're looking at.
So we're coming in at the lower end of the.
Yeah.
Okay. It says grant amounts are between 200,000 and 2 million, so we're coming in on the low end. Do you think does that better our chances of getting it? Since we're coming in on the lower, since we're not asking for the maximum amount, but coming in sort of on that lower end, does that improve the chances of getting the grant, do you think?
I would say yes.
That's kind of what we heard from the state when we talked with them, that the proposal and kind of the direction that we're going will be that it should be a competitive proposal. And that was one thing, we didn't want to ask for so much that we have a really big gap to fill at the end of the 30 months. So what's reasonable, sustainable from the onset. So that's kind of where we came up with those numbers.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
George, I think you're up next too.
Yeah, and Pavel's gonna graduate here today. I'm gonna sit on the side.
Okay, all right. All right, Pavel, talking about home and CDBG loan closeout and conversion.
Yes, sir. So I have two items, but the first one is this loan conversion. So back in February 17, 2022, there was a decision made to have a list of loans written off and forgiven. I've gone through and looked up all the parcel numbers that are attached to this loan. And as far as I know, there hasn't been any reconveyance or release of those liens. And I also haven't found any resolution that allows that through the BOCC. So I wanted to make sure that we get this list to you, share it with you. Basically let you know that there are no reconveyances done on them since this date. As far as I know, that at the auditor's or treasurer's office, all of these notes receivables haven't been zeroed out and written off either. So we've kind of done a write-off through our loan tracking software, but there hasn't been official steps done yet to actually zero them out, write them off, and issue reconveyances. This issue kind of arose because we had an escrow officer reach out to us to release a lien, and we realized that the property had already been sold, and the person selling that property now has this lien on their property, and they have nothing to do with the loan. But there's historic documentation that showing that the loan's been forgiven. We just haven't gone through the steps of actually releasing it. So basically, what my proposal is to have the board ratify this loans forgiven list, so that I would be able to go through and begin the legal processes of actually releasing these loans. These are all somewhat small amounts, so there's going to be very insignificant impact on the loan portfolio as well.
Okay, yeah, it looks like he said less than 5%, the effect of the proposed loan changes on
The
cash
less
flow
than
would be less than
5%?
1%.
That's for the complete list of individual loans. This one is actually not even, I think like 1/10%.
Okay.
For the total of these.
Okay, any questions? Alright, looks good.
Awesome, pretty quick and easy,
Yeah.
thank you. And then for this second item, it's the same about the individual loans. Basically my plan, and I guess I would say George agrees fully, is that our loan portfolio has been quite expensive to upkeep in the past. As we had most of our support services through community services, having all the financial side of that loan portfolio managed by them and by HCD. I believe the most recent estimate that I was able to somewhat confirm was that it was about $250,000 per year to manage that loan portfolio. So it would make sense for like an investing firm to have like a 1% management fee, but for affordable housing, low income individuals, it's not very sustainable. So basically my goal with this loan portfolio is to make it go down in operating costs and make it sustainable. I think I shared with you all last week that we're approximately getting about $400 or so thousand back from the loan portfolio per year, and it's most likely going to raise year over year. But we're only allowed to keep 10% of that for administration. So the goal is to get this loan portfolio under $45,000 per year for actually managing it. And a large part of the management of it is these individual loans, which, like I have written in the item, they're less than 5% of the total. So the proposal for this one is for all of those low-income individuals that have made enough payments to cover their principal balance, that we just write them off and get those liens released. And moving forward, whenever we have these historic individual loans that anywhere from like $1,900 to, I think we have some down payment assistance ones of like $8,000 dating all the way back to the 80s. If they pay off up to the principal balance, then we just write off the rest and release them, because the management, I can see from a business side potentially it making sense, but from financially it just doesn't make sense to keep these loans outstanding and managing them, because we're not getting the return on investment at all. So basically some of these payments could be like $30 payments, and as you can imagine, we received the check, we're putting it into the financial systems where that check basically touches like 4 or 5 hands, and every single person's taking off admin for the work done. So that $30 is basically just, disappears right there and then. So it doesn't really make sense for us to keep these very small loans as long as, they pay off their principal. We can just get them off the loan portfolio. These were all loans given to people that could have received them as grants as well. So we did have the option to give them as grants, but it is good to at least keep them accountable, keep them from receiving just free money so they can, make irresponsible decisions and whatnot. So that's basically the proposal is for the loans that have already, the individual loans, not the organizational loans, the individual loans that have already paid off an amount that's equal or above their principal value, we can write them off and get those released. And the ones that haven't yet, it'll be a lot easier to just manage with them. Once we get Castle implementation, just have them do some kind of payment plan. Once they get to their principal balance, we just release it.
All right, any questions, Scott?
Pavel, just so I'm tracking with what you're sharing with the commissioners, these are pretty old loans. You mentioned
Yes, sir.
some back into the 80s. And in each of the cases, the payments that have been received by the county have at least repaid the principal because of the low payments. They're accruing interest at a higher rate, which is probably like a credit card. You know, it's hard to, if you're paying minimum payments, you're just kind of building the balance. So, but they've all been at least repaid on their principal.
Not all of them, sir,
Okay.
but some of those historic ones, they have been, we have a handful of people that have been constantly paying, making the, whatever's manageable for them, and they've already paid off principal and a decent amount in interest. So
Give
it's
an estimate of
how many
what
paid off.
percentage has been paid off versus not paid off.
I would think we have over 10%. It's not a significant percentage.
That has not paid off.
That is not paid off a principal amount, yes. But we're almost weekly or bi-weekly, we're getting emails from title escrow officers that are just trying to get these loans taken care of. So we are little by little paying off all these loans. It just makes it a lot, like I said, it's a lot more sustainable if we try to get rid of these from the portfolio instead of keeping them on. If these individuals aren't able to do the full balance with their interest, it costs us way more money than we're really making from it.
Commissioner
Do
Jordan?
you know about how many loans we're talking about?
145, but it's only a total of about I believe it's under $1.1 million, so less than 5% of the total.
Are most of the loans in the portfolio like to providers
Yes,
rather
sir.
than individuals?
Yes, sir. So there's about 25 million to nonprofits, I believe some for-profits. I think what's coming to mind is just one for-profit, but you know, most of them are for big projects.
You've talked with legal about this, no concerns on this? Okay. Okay. I don't see any other questions. We're good?
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Next, we're joined by Tim. Talk about dissolving various petty cash accounts and then gonna talk about modifying various petty cash accounts.
Good morning, Commissioners. During our end of year work, we met with many of the departments who have petty cash accounts to make sure that what they had was still meeting their needs. And we found in 8 different petty cash accounts, the departments no longer needed them. So prior to November 1st, they returned the cash back to Treasury. And so that's why you'll notice that that one had a date of November 1st for an effective date, because effectively they'd already turned in the cash. We were just a little bit behind in filing these. So on the dissolution, there were 8 petty cash accounts belonging to 5 separate departments. And on the modifications, there were 5 petty cash accounts belonging to 3 different departments. In all cases, most of these range in the low $100 range. We do have a couple, like one in the auditor's office. It's January to March, it was at $1,500. And then from April to December, it dropped to $1,000. But with the ongoing needs, they decided it needs to be at $1,500 for the entire year. So we are asking that the commission approve these resolutions. One to dissolve the 8 petty cash accounts, and the other to modify In most cases, they're being increased, there are 2 being decreased.
Any questions? Scott?
It looks like most of these are kind of operational needs based, customer facing sort of things. I see auditor, licensing, golf course operations, parks, the aquatic centers and
Yes,
stuff. So that's more of it's cash on hand so they can
Cash
do
on
some
hand, if
transactions.
people are coming in and they need change, a lot of them are change accounts. And some of them, like in the recording office, more and more people coming in with $50 bills, $100 bills, as our costs go up. So having a little bit more money on hand is a smoother flow.
Yeah, even the increase, I mean, it's still very low dollar amounts.
Yeah, the largest one I think is $3,000.
Yeah, for Parks and Rec, Southside Aquatic Center.
Yes, sir.
So. Okay,
Awesome, thank you, sir.
I think we're good. Thank you. All right, Jessica Hines is next up. I didn't. We're way ahead of schedule, so.
She'll be here shortly.
All right, Pat is gonna step in.
Okay. So,
He
when,
took off someone, so. I'm not
okay,
sure it was-
I'll just take a quick time out if that's okay.
Yeah, okay. We wanna, we'll go at ease for, we'll do 5 minutes, you think?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go at ease. It is 9:59. We're gonna go at ease until 10:05. So we'll be back in about 6 minutes. Okay, we have reconvened. It is 10:05, and we have been joined by Jessica Hines and Pat Bell. Going to talk about our website update.
Yes, good morning. We have a website refresh coming up that is launching on February 19th, so about 2 weeks from now, President's Day. And I stress that this is not a update to any type of content. This is a part of our Civic Plus contract where we get the opportunity every 4 years to update the color, look, and feel of our website. Many of you might remember the last time we did this back in 2020. COVID kind of overshadowed it, so it wasn't as big of a presentation. But this was our website before 2020. Some of you may remember, this is when I first started at the county. And so when I first started, I got a lot of feedback, a lot of, we hate this, and this. My position, as many know, did not exist before me. So I kind of came into the website and just tried to start pulling back some responsibilities and content and getting things and helping the editors that we did have. We'll get into some more specifics there, but this was our website at that time. And then slide. This just kind of gives a timeline of how everything happened. So 2016 is actually when that website you saw before launched. It was adopted Civic Plus as our county CMS. IT purchased it, and they actually came out in 2016 and trained all the web editors. And again, as a digital content manager, even a webmaster role did not exist. This was set up, Civic Plus came out, they trained people, and then they said, Godspeed, go out and do your thing. So between 2016 and 2018, departments had to select and train people. There was no real branding or content oversight. One feedback I heard a lot when I started was departments were kind of in their own silos, just doing their own thing. And so that did create some disconnect between the different department pages. Our homepage, there wasn't a lot of communication. So 2019, I was hired at the beginning of the year. I started in April. And from that moment, my goal was compliance and training. Civic Plus actually sent out a person and they trained. I sat in a little room for about a week and I said, show me everything. And I went over every single inch of that Civic Plus website and I learned everything. Every widget, module, page, tip, trick, everything, with IT as my backup and support. So in 2020, we went through our first refresh, and We adopted a more brighter look, and that's what we have today, as many of you are familiar with, emphasizing news and updates. We wanted to really pull those and make the pictures stand out, grab people's attention when they came to the website. And then last year, knowing that we were hitting another refresh window, started collecting and researching what other counties are doing, what other states are doing, what works, what doesn't work, and talking with all the web editors, and also collecting feedback from our leadership, elected officials, department heads, and everyone in between. Every meeting I have, I'm always like, one of the questions I love to ask is, what website do you look at and say, man, I wish our website looked like that? Because while we might not be able to do the exact same thing, I want to know what those little things are that people like. So that's what we did. Slide. So a little bit more about Civic Plus. Again, they're our content management service or system. And so this is a platform that allows us to upload and showcase everything that we need. However, it's only customizable to a point. So while there may be a website that we really like, much like, let's say, Facebook, that's the parameters that you have to work in. Getting into the background, kind of like we all remember, some of us that maybe remember MySpace, and we could get in there and adjust the code and things like that. We try to forget that time.
We don't want to remember that.
We got to pick our own song.
I
for
know,
our
I
page.
know.
Come on.
Pick your top friends. too.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
awkward.
Yeah, Tom. So, again, but Civic Plus is an all-in-one solution for us, and it helps us get it out there, and it is customizable to a point. And
Never sold
a lot of other, for notably Pierce County uses it. A lot of other places across the state and across the country use Civic Plus. This does rely on department editors. We have people that join in. And a reminder, this is an additional responsibility for them. So departments don't hire specifically website editors. This is somebody who has elected to learn it and perform that task for their department. So they do have to go through training from me, but again, this is an additional duty on top of their regular job. Currently, we have 150 across the county. Some are very active, some are rarely active, but it's always being updated and monitored. And then the last part of that is me, the webmaster, kind of your CMS expert. Again, I know every inch of that website. Sometimes, I still get surprised by things, but as far as the widgets and modules and how things work, I'm that person that can clarify things for our editors. And, I do work closely with IT. And also a priority to, provide adherence to policies and standards and industry best practices. Slide.
Can I pause you real quick?
Of course, absolutely.
I was just gonna ask kind of how the central team works with the departments on content.
Yeah.
And so it seems like you do that through kind of volunteers, right, coming forward to be the content or department editor.
Yeah.
Is that a struggle to get people to sign up for that, to do that work?
The departments work, they identify the need of how much needs to be updated. You have some departments that maybe they need updates once or twice a year. Some departments need updates weekly. So they really identify their need, and then it's like, okay, me as the webmaster, can you handle updating this document or this link for us once or twice a year? Yes, absolutely. Or we're needing to get in here a lot more, let's identify somebody that can. And then I've recently just launched a kind of schedule your own training with the trainer. And it's actually gotten some hit. It's a new feature I kind of discovered through Teams and Outlook, where they can go and they can schedule 10-minute, 30-minute, or hour session with me. And that gives them the flexibility to pick a time and a schedule so that we can get one-on-one. And I find that training through Teams is best, because then I can just mirror my page and we go through everything that they need.
just add that since I started now about 7 months ago, we've been in conversation about the centralized, decentralized nature of this. And from my perspective, coming in as kind of fresh eyes on it, there's a considerable amount of Jessica's time that she's dedicating to this. And we've been talking about building bandwidth for more creative services, so more video recording, more assistance with social media. Jessica also manages a number of social media accounts. She updates the commissioner's page. So we really are trying to focus on a train the trainer approach and have these individual web editors take more responsibility for updating things, because it is a significant amount of time if Jessica is to make every change to every web page available. But depending on what that staff knowledge is or experience is,
Yeah.
you know, Jessica will still step in and help with little kinks here and there that come up in the system. It's not so much at the technical level, that's kind of the partnership that we have with IT, but Jessica likes to say she has a kind of one foot in the comms office, 1 foot in the IT office. I will tell you, just from a, you know, from an FTE basis, it's probably 50% of her position is spent in this webmaster role, because there are so many, not tickets, but requests coming in for assistance. You can imagine if you only get into a system once a year, you probably forgot how to do everything, and then the system changed and this button, so that is the helpful, having her as the main contact with Civic Plus. So she has that high level knowledge of the website. The goal is, you know, 90 somewhat plus 99% uptime as well. And so we haven't had a lot of failures there, but forms that quit working or they're getting spam, I mean, any given day it can be a lot of incoming, so.
So yeah, IT, I work with them when it comes to security issues. Sometimes our forms will get hit with spam. Someone will get like 100 submissions, all of a sudden they're like, what's happening? So we work together to get in there and identify those issues. And then certain iframes or little things like that we can do to manipulate code, but IT does manage as far as the security. And when we create new editors, they actually go through their county ID. It's an authentication that goes through Civic Plus and our servers to make sure people have the correct access. And then once they are no longer editor, or they leave their department, or they leave the county, that's something we watch and we continuously update. So that's how that's managed too. So as far as admin and management, kind of building on that, some of the things that I use to help in that webmaster role, analytics and compliance. We have Site Improve, which is kind of like your Google Analytics, but this is a much larger platform that we use to analyze anything from hits to a website, search results, how people are getting to our website, how long they stay on a web page, what the bounce rate is, I can see where they're coming from in the States. You know, if someone in Canada searches something and they get to our site, what devices they're using. And then I'll get into that. We have another slide kind of showing some of those trends for your information. And then the CMS, the Civic Plus. On top of that, we also have archiving and public records. I work with Tony Denaro sometimes when we have a request for the website as well as social media. That's just kind of a twofold. So Page Freezer is what we use. They archive our entire website, all of our social media accounts, plus I believe our intranet, the SharePoint, all of those we can pull records for when we get those requests. And then our news and media, you know, various social media pages and other accounts that we use to do the job. That list is always kind of changing. But it's really just to optimize the content and the structure. You know, we're always looking at what's happening in the industry. These things are always evolving and changing. So next slide, these are some of the analytics I thought the board would be interested in. So I just looked at 2023 numbers. So for 2023, we had 3 million viewers. That's unique visitors to our website. Highest peak traffic occurs through August and September. It's pretty obvious that's probably because of the fair. And then the slowest traffic occurs in February. So right about now, we're not seeing the most traffic. 60% we get from search engines, so someone's just Googling something, you know, how do I get this or this? And then 30% is direct traffic, probably they have it saved in their history or their favorites. Probably a lot of that's just me getting in there. So people who have things earmarked, that's that direct traffic. 12%, that represents our most popular page, which, drumroll please, is the inmate roster. So that takes up 12%. The mage page or the home page is around 9%, and then you can see it goes down from there. Assessor, scraps, elections, online payments. Yes, of course.
Is this updated? Cause I thought my county spotlight would have taken over the.
Those views are
Hey,
going
that's
up.
part of the home page.
I
You know,
see
the
it,
spotlights
it's
are on there.
taken off.
12-month look back, yeah.
Oh, fair enough. I'd love to see the most current data when all that gets registered.
There we go. And then it's to note that, you know, a little over half people get on from their mobile device. So that's something we have to take in, is how mobile friendly our website is. And that was something from in 2020 when we updated that we really had to take a look at. And again, looking at that right now, with how things load on a phone. And especially when we have forms and things like that, that are being updated. Chrome is the most popular browser, and 46% of users are on a desktop. So, next page. These are our search results. So these were people, when they come to our website, what they are putting in that search bar. Again, inmate roster is still very popular. And then it kind of is a concoction of cats, dogs, jobs, divorce, hours, tickets, kittens. But cats and dogs are always at the top of that list. I see certain things where you see at the bottom, where do I get a concealed weapons permit? That one fluctuates based on the time of year, what's going on. But this list is really important for me because this also helps me drive, what do we put on the homepage? What are those top links we put forward? And what do we push towards social media? If I see an increase in searches for how do I get a marriage certificate, or where do I find my birth certificate? How do I get copies of that? How do I make a public marriage request? I might take that and then translate that into social media to help alleviate those search frustrations. So again, that's always changing, and I'm happy to share, additional updates down the road as that changes throughout the year, so that for your own, information.
Scott?
Yeah.
Josh.
No, quick question. Oh, yeah, go for it.
Just an observation, when you look at, I would have expected tax parcel searches to be
Yeah.
one of the highest. And if you look at the common themes in here, it really is, because parcel information search, scout, and parcel search does show the high utilization I expected of that. So,
Yeah.
I don't know where that is on our webpage, but
We tried, those are on the homepage, so even though those links are brought to the forefront, people still like to search for them.
sure.
Yeah.
And I think this can provide some insights to the commissioners and their staff about what are those common services people think about when they're coming to the website. And this whole idea of, e-services is, we're 24 years into this from the time, I don't know exactly when the county first got its website. 2000, so 24 years of experience, which is pretty common. And as Jessica said, we know this is what people are searching for and looking for, but how do we think about, from an operational standpoint, how are we providing the most efficient, effective, transparent, and accessible e-services to our constituents? So, it gives us a little bit of insight into that. It's not just all about navigability, if that's a word, and such. It's really how are we being responsive to what people are looking for and asking for from the county.
One really neat feature of analytics, it's not in this presentation, but I'm happy to get a printout, is we can see, we have a feature called heat maps. And so I can pull up a page, usually look at the home page, and it shows me where people are clicking the most on that page, how far they scrolled on the page, where did they stop. And so that's kind of a heat map of the actual real behavior of someone on a web page. And you'll see, so these are just searches, but you can see, wow, a lot of people clicked on the online services. That's a big one. And then during certain times of the year, they're looking for the sewer payments. And I can see that button is just like white hot, So that's a really interesting tool that we use for our big pages, especially pages that have payments, pages that have search functions, the fair page, different things like that. We can really see what the behavior is, even of mouse clicks or how they're scrolling. Something I took from that when we went into the 2020 refresh is we realized people were not scrolling past that very top of the website. So that's where we really focus, pushing a lot of the content up. You don't want to bury it because people don't scroll down a page. They get a little bit, and if they can't find what they're looking for, even though that link might just be a little bit lower, they're going to go right to that search bar. And that inmate roster is a perfect example of that. I have a link to the inmate roster that's just a little bit lower, but you can see the high searchability. So people, and that's why I advise departments, don't build your page so long, because information past like that 2/3 mark is lost. They're not even going to see it. You have to keep your information up. So those are some really interesting stats.
I think another thing is that you can create a county, events calendar from what you see in the activity here and how the website just has to stay maintained. You have to think about, in May and June when we send out revaluation notices, 200,000 plus of those to our constituents, that really needs to be somewhere front and center at that point. The fair, obviously, taxes, in about another couple of weeks are gonna go out. That's gonna be a big thing through April. There's just a lot of different things that
Being an
ebb and
election
flow.
year,
Yeah, election
that's a
year
huge one.
thing,
Yeah.
especially this year. Yeah, there'll be a lot more to come on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably we can provide good information as we get into that about how we're protecting our site and, you know, our electorate and all of that as well.
Absolutely, thank you. So some key goals slide. One priority, or the top one, training, as Patrick described a little bit ago. Giving more power to those editors and encouraging them to kind of take control, but it's gotta be, I do group training, one-on-one training really works the best, and I'm working on a schedule where I can just have more open office hours so people can just stop by, hey, how does this work? How does this work? I'm always in the back end of the website seeing where people are going, what they're doing, and I'll be like, hey, how you did this page isn't very effective. Let's schedule some training and I can show you some better ways to do that. So a lot of times I'll meet with departments and I'll go, tell me what your goals are, and I'll tell you how we can translate them the best. Because if someone just gets in there, that was a problem I found a lot when I first started, is that people were given access and they kind of winged it to figure out what they were doing, because some of it's very intuitive. Some of it's like, oh, I just put text here, I hyperlink this, and I'm good to go. And that's where people got into trouble. And so there are a lot of cool features on the website that people don't even know they can utilize. So that's always a thing I strive to get. Integration and transparency, bringing those, promoting lesser known website features, those modules and widgets. And, you know, even just like Civic Clerk and these board briefings, bringing those up, making sure people have access to those and they can see them. And again, this just kind of builds into that, bringing it forward, looking at the analytics, bringing forward those top links, and making it something that's just not static all year long. It's a monthly, sometimes even a weekly basis where things are being refreshed and brought forward based off of where we are. Again, right now, I know February, there's not a whole lot going on, but there's still stuff people are looking for.
Just to summarize, the key takeaway that's on the page for the commissioners is we want to have a user-friendly, self-service, functional website where people can quickly find what they want and then go about their business. That's it. It's user-friendly, so nice, easy, clean design, and then self-service. So as much as possible, they don't have to pick up the phone and call now. They can get to what they need online. And I think when departments start seeing a lot of phone calls, people can't find what they see, then we know that's kind of an early warning system. There's an issue with the website.
Our snow call and pages like that are a great example of that. So slide, again, just peeking what the original website used to look like. And then slide again. This is what we went to. And slide one more time. And this is the new look. So if you click on that link for me there, Ron, it's gonna, if it's okay, we're gonna actually go see the website. That's kind of a, yeah, we'll see if that works here. Otherwise, we could just walk through that. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. So right up at the top there, we're going with a darker color scheme. Those rotating banners right there will be updated. So that will give us a chance to bring those news items. Obviously, the entrance to the courthouse, it's just all stand-in items right there. But one thing I really like that we did, you see those social media links up at the top near the search bar. Those are going to be customizable for the departments. And so again, it's bringing those top links right there next to the search button. That little envelope there is to sign up for the different newsletters and alerts, things for the website. But just really bringing those links. I know we have, 5 new commissioners, two new, sorry, who really want to promote that kind of stuff, and bringing it a little higher up on the page is going to kind of build that transparency. People can connect in a way that they're more comfortable with. Scroll down a little bit. We have some new buttons. You can hover over those. They kind of turn blue. We had the round buttons for a long time, so we're just refreshing those. You scroll down a little more. The popular resources. This is a great new addition. Kind of still like the button and the top links features, but these are a little more evergreen. Commissioner meetings, public works. People are very visual. They want to see those types of links, and then we can switch those out, obviously, quarterly or however that works, depending on what's going on. So August, September, one of those will probably become the fair. But it just gives more of a visual representation to those top links. Scroll a little more. This has stayed the same, just the colors and fonts. We went to brighter white. We can see the latest news, the calendar, and the social media links again are available there. And these are all customizable throughout the year. Continue scrolling, please. There's your calendar.
Have I missed, oh, there it is. I was gonna say, where's the inmate roster? This is pretty, it's pretty far down.
Yeah, a little bit. It gets moved around during the year. Inmate roster scraps, the parcel button. So this hasn't launched yet, so I am in there right now making some adjustments for when we go live on the 19th. Those will kind of shift around. And then keep going. I hope you like this section. We have better commissioner representation there if you hover over those. Each of them kind of highlight what district they're in. I'm hoping that more departments will take advantage of highlighting their leadership and their elected officials. This is on the homepage. I really wanted to bring this forward now that we have 5 districts of people being able to get to those a little more quickly.
So we're down below the parcel search, the roster scrap.
Well, if they've gotten to that point, they need to, yeah.
Stuff about the transfer station, garbage, and then we'll get to the commissioner.
And direct all complaints to Commissioner Kearns.
There we go. I gotta put, vice chair. Yeah, he is under there. There you go. And it gotta be 2024. Wonderful. Okay, scroll down, and that's pretty much it. Then the bottom of the website again. So if you click one more time, I would go back to the slide, please. I just wanted to give you a quick peek of what the internal pages will look like. And I apologize, the one that you have right now doesn't give, the link doesn't work. So I did make a new slide for us to kind of look at the old versus the new. We were kind of boxed in, and then we've gone to a brighter, more, it fills in the page a little more to give those interior pages, because some departments don't have like the big department packages where the banner and everything is. So we just wanted to expand that space and brighten it up and make the menu a little more clear. And that's pretty much it.
Jessica, any questions, comments, feedback?
I think it looks really nice. I like it. It's very visually appealing, and it definitely looks like it's been refreshed. And
There we go.
But you haven't made it. I think we can still. Everyone's going to be able to find their way around it.
Yes,
So.
yes,
I
absolutely.
remember in 2016 when the new one came.
Yeah.
It was a completely different website. It's like, well, now I don't know where anything is. So.
Yeah, it's that real kind of iterative, incremental change, not a big radical refresh.
Getting to more of a refining stage at this point.
And I know we have a feedback form. We can circulate that again, all county, as people get in and engage with the new website. Always looking to try and take feedback. We can't process all of it, can't take every good idea, but no bad ideas and brainstorming. And it's in addition to technical problems people have, people can submit that and it'll be reviewed by Jessica. And
The
web
language
editor.
function is still on there. It's not in the exact spot, but it is absolutely still on there. I know that's a priority for the commissioners of having that language function. It's always been there. Let's see.
Oh, Commissioner French?
Yeah, Jessica, great job. But is there a way to where we could have a spot on the website so that somebody that was impacted by the Gray or Oregon fire, they could go to that site and each one of the departments it's just a gauge or a guide for them to be able to navigate what they need to do to be able to get their house restored or the property cleaned up or whatever. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely.
Instead of having, right now, they've got to go from department to department and try and figure it out themselves. But if there was a site that they could just say, I was a victim of the Great Fire, and here's a list of contacts that I need to reach out to make sure I can get back to rebuilding.
I think we can work with Monty and Building and Planning and get their resources. We'd worked on a one-pager for them earlier and just making that real digital friendly. And it has kind of the 3 or 4 hoops you have to jump through to do cleanup, where to go for services. We also had, right as the fires launched, a very comprehensive resource page, and so we can revisit that. We'll, yes, Commissioner, we'll work with the departments on that and come back and circulate that when it's ready.
Like the assessor has some information.
The tax relief.
But I think for the first 4 or 5 months, that fire resources was on the rotating banner.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Scott?
Scott, or
Oh, go ahead.
whoever wants to go.
Oh, thank you. Such a gentleman. Looks great. I think it looks really fresh. Wondering if there's like another emergency or something, how do you plan to kind of put the critical information?
Yeah, we
Where
do
will
have
that live?
an alert function on the
Banner across
website,
the
that
top
the very
again.
bottom, it's like a little ticker and it,
Public notice.
yeah, that's red that comes across there, and then of course that rotating banner, you know, we can put anything that we need in there. And I remember during COVID that was utilized a lot. We've had certain things that we just kind of stand there. That's the first thing you see when you get on the website, but there is an alert plan, absolutely.
Kind of follow up on that.
Yeah.
Similar to either emerging issues or popular things that the commissioners want to highlight. I think the banners, if I can use the right terminology, are always an option to refresh, update.
It's always
I don't know if
available.
We're probably, I don't know if we're limited on 5 or 4 or something like that. And you don't want to have like 20 on there because people don't like to scroll through them. But
Yeah.
as the commissioners, like Commissioner French just mentioned, having the Oregon and Graysville Fire on there for fire resources, having it on there for a period of time, those are ones that, you know, one could run for 7 months, 6 months. Some might run for a month or 2 or whatnot. So I think I'm speaking accurately that if you find some things that you'd like to highlight on the banner that would be important for the community, to reach out to Jessica and Pat on those. The other thing I was gonna ask on was, I don't know how we would do this, but we certainly, you're talking about the feedback that we're getting internally. Is there a feedback loop that would be effective for our citizens who use the page? Are we already doing that, or?
We have a
is
form
it-
available, yes.
Form,
It doesn't get used as much as you'd think.
Yeah.
I just got one the other day. I probably get one every few months. And, or the front office, I know Shelley has gotten a call, hey, this isn't working, and then she'll let me know.
I'm thinking about like suggested enhancements, how to make it more, because for us, while we use it, it's mostly for the public's benefit. And I don't know that we have any super users of our website from a customer standpoint, but you know, it's important feedback to hear navigability.
No, that's an interesting point,
I don't know how you get it.
because we do get through our help desk from the citizens. They point out things on the website.
I think what we
And they
could,
send those to me.
Yeah.
I think what we could do is work with Civic Plus and understand, sometimes when you navigate in 2 or 3 pages, and the site can almost tell, the software can almost tell, you know, you've probably found what you're looking for, like we've served you, maybe you've clicked a submit button, then a pop-up with a survey for a user survey for the general public. You see that on a lot of government sites, so we can check and see if that's available. And just a real quick, you know, 5 questions, how was your visit today, how easy was it to find what you're looking for, you know, a suggestion box, something like that, Scott?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So
Just
we'll see
to,
if that's available.
again, not that we have super users or anything, but it would be, if we can get feedback from our citizens, that would be good, helpful improvements for how to navigate more easily. I think that would be important.
Create that feedback loop for us, not just what we think and what we're seeing, but get some ideas from the public.
And then for the board's benefit of just making the website, if you'd like to make website updates, you know, I could come back once a quarter, give you some analytics updates, show you how things are going, just for your own awareness of how the public is engaging with the website. Happy to do that, whether that's here or in an email, but we can absolutely start doing that.
Similar to the news clips, it could produce a quarterly analytics document or something.
That'd be great.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Eric Green from the Sheriff's Office, going to talk about video wall and consoles for the Real-Time Crime Center.
Good morning.
All right.
Most of you probably haven't seen my face before, so
I was going to say that this might be your first time visiting with
yeah,
us.
I'm the project manager. This is my first time in here.
All right.
How exciting.
Yes, welcome.
So what we're looking for today is for the county commissioners to approve the purchase of $311,000 in $311,081. And what this encompasses is a 5x2 video wall, which is essentially 10 screens that'll be in the front of the room in the real-time crime center. And then 6 sit-to-stand workstation consoles, which are different than like your normal desk, because you have like that dispatcher functionality. They're designed for people that are basically sitting in the chairs all day. Also included in this is the software, which is Canvas software is the name of it. The video wall is a Jupyter solution. We spent a lot of time looking at functionality with this. The biggest advantage to the Jupyter versus the 4 other vendors we looked at was it's more of a cloud-based solution. So, for example, say we wanted to mimic what was on the video wall in the real-time crime center in the Spokane Valley Police Precinct or out at Shrek's, or even in like an EOC if you've got an emergency going on, where you wanted that situational awareness. As long as you have a user with a floating license, the software actually allows you to be able to pull up exactly what they're seeing in the real-time crime center, essentially in any location that has an internet connection. The other vendors didn't offer that. It was really expensive to try and push some of that stuff to other places because you had hardware requirements and that kind of thing. So this solution ended up working the best. Initially, we were given what we found out was a bare bones quote, which came in at like 195. So when we actually went out to look at these, we were given sticker shock when it came back at $650,000 for video wall software and consoles. Over the last 3 or 4 months, we've been through multiple quotes, worked through some scoping, tried to offset cost to get the price down where it was reasonable, but we still had the functionality we needed. And we've gotten down from 650 to 311 you see. And then 48 of that is the sit-to-stand consoles. This is on an Omnia Partners contract, cooperative agreement, which has been vetted by purchasing. And that's all I've got. I can answer any questions.
How big did you say the video wall is?
So it's a 5x2, 10 screens. So basically, 2 screens, one on top of each other, 5 across.
So at what total area does that cover?
It'd be an entire wall. I don't know the exact dimensions of the wall. It was like 25 feet by whatever the size of 2 screens would be, 4 or 5 feet.
What are the size of the screens?
Okay.
65-inch, I believe.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
big. It's
Okay, so
it'll cover the entire
so you
wall.
got 10 60-inch screens
Yeah.
up there. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Any questions? Commissioner Jordan?
So you got 3 other bids from other companies?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? What was kind of the advantage of this group versus the others?
So it was the functionality. So they all came in similarly once we got the scope adjusted and kind of weeded out some of the places we could offset. I mean, they were all $15,000 to $20,000 apart. The advantage to this one was the functionality of being able to essentially share that video wall anywhere as long as you have a user that can log in. And that's the part I guess I left out. So there's part of this is 2 fixed licenses and 2 floating licenses. Floating licenses would allow essentially that user to log on from anywhere. Those licenses are perpetual, so there's no recurring cost with that. There's 1 year of maintenance, software updates included as well.
Another question, where does the 311,000 kind of fit within the budget framework
So
for
we
the
have
project?
three-
Is it on track or?
Yes, we have $338,000 set aside for this specifically within the ARPA budget.
Good.
To cover the 9% sales tax.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us to miscellaneous matters, and we're joined by Jeff McMorris. He must be listening in the other room.
So 2 items to go over. The first, just an FYI, the annual contract we have with GSI for economic development, we have the contracts in hand, signed by GSI's leadership. Once we get the insurance certificate, showing we're also included as a other insured, we'll put it on. So he knows if we get it tomorrow by noon, it'll be next Tuesday, and if we don't, it'll be according to whenever we get it. The only difference this year, as in previous years, is the Advantage Spokane website, which is $13,000, a separate contract from the $200,000. They're looking at the GIS component of that website that pulls in kind of data in real time. If that contract with the GIS company goes away in May and is not renewed, we will get a prorated refund, or we will not pay $1,100 a month. So the $13,000 could be reduced, depending that. The other is $200,000, 75 of that is the regional visionary level, and the other 125 is for economic development partnership services. It includes the same that you're used to with regional development or the regional level as far as tables and events and such that come with that category of status quo. So any questions on that one?
125, is that the state money?
No, this is above and beyond the state money.
Say the numbers one more time, just so I get refreshed.
Of the 200, which is one contract, 200,000, 75 is the regional visionary membership level.
Okay.
And the other 125 is economic development partnership services. Andy might know roughly what that pass-through dollar is from the state, or we can get it for you later, but that is a separate number.
The state money is in addition to the 125, and so the 125 is that like our outside agencies number?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Along with the 75.
Correct.
Yeah. And then I don't know what their ADO dollar is that they get from the state.
It's several hundred thousand, I wanna.
No, I don't think it's that. It used to be 88,000.
I thought it was.
Then
like
it went
six
up
figures.
to close to 100. It might be over 100 now.
I thought it was 2 to 3, but
I don't think
We'll
it's.
figure it out.
I don't think it's that
Just
high.
curious.
But
so it'll be on an agenda soon, once we get that insurance certificate. And then, Ron, if you could check, Ron, John Colton might be on, it's unlikely since we're running early. But we'll also just kind of wanted to do a quick, kind of getting everybody prepared for earmark season in DC. Commissioner French and any other commissioner who may be on. These will be in your inbox. But wanted to just go over the congressional earmark process, get you thinking about priorities, and then in the next week or two, I think we should have the Desmond group in to have a discussion. By way of review, the last 2 years, we've submitted 3 requests each. Each year we had an Vista Stadium request, each year we had a Hatch Road request. Neither of those were funded in either. 2 years ago, we had a Craig Road request out near the airport, which was funded at a 3 million level. Those funds are available to us at this point. Last year, we had, or I guess it's actually this year, we put it in last year for the 24 budget that is not yet passed in Congress, is another 4.5 million for the I-90 interchange out at Craig, Four Lakes. That one is currently in the House budget. The senators have said that they will also push forward on the Senate side. But if we do not actually pass a budget this year and continue the year on continuing resolutions, commonly called CRs, since it was earmarks don't make CRs. So we're waiting to see, at this point, I think we're probably running 50-50, whether we'll actually finish out the federal calendar, October to October, on CRs, or they actually pass a budget. For earmarks, which the whole world calls them earmarks unless you're talking to somebody in Congress. So in the Senate, they call them congressional directed spending. You also hear CDS as the acronym. All of the 12 bills on the sheet below are open for earmarks in the Senate. The senators also have no limits beyond common sense when it comes to the number of projects and the amount they request. So whatever they think they can get, they can put in, or they can put any of the stuff they don't think they'll get. On the House side, they call it community project funding. I've never heard it acronymed. You will hear it just reduced to community projects. Only the 7 bills listed in yellow are actually open in the House. 2 years ago, all 12 were open. In 24, for the 24 budget, in calendar year 23, it's confusing with the years. Only these 7 were open since we're still in the same 2-year Congress. I'm assuming it'll be the same 7 this year. The House is limited, as you see, 15 requests, up to 5 million per, and the House has a total earmark cap of half of 1% of the total discretionary spending. The House is also requiring a federal nexus. So last year, of the 3 that went in, the I-90 interchange, because of its proximity to Fairchild and the ability of that back gate, that was actually the only project that was submitted that qualified on the House side. The other 2 did qualify on the Senate side. And then also you see the last bullet point, museum, memorials, parks, anything that are frequently named after a person are prohibited in the House side. Generally speaking, when things come together in a conference committee, if the senators put something into one of the bills that the House doesn't allow it, it still can go through, but it will not start on the House side. Also smart to know your audience, know your senator, know your member of Congress, ask them for something that they are willing to publicly advocate for, go down on the House floor, particularly on the House side, and that sometimes require the members of Congress to speak to it publicly. So use common sense there. And then just 2 acronyms, number 10 and 12, you'll often just hear them called MILCON or THUD. Since those are both open bills, good acronyms to be aware of if you're talking on federal land. If you flip it over, one thing that I've noticed isn't super common knowledge I wanted to bring up, just as Heather and I keep reminding our ARP awardees, you didn't win the lottery, you don't get a big check from Publishers Clearinghouse. You are awarded funding for a specific project. It does not get you around any of the rules or deadlines that come with that funding. What it is they will have a category for funding, say it's roads. If you have to provide a 25% match for that category, we have to provide it for the earmark. We still have to apply for all of these grants. All it does is give you a guaranteed outcome that if you are qualified and you meet all of the details, we know we will get that money. But staff still has to apply for it, jump through all the hoops. And if there's deadlines, is also, as we remind all of our ARP people, we've been talking about, you can't keep it in the account for 5 years and then decide what to do with it. It does come generally, sometimes road projects have a longer lead time or major infrastructure, but most of the funding will expire with that budget. Just like we have in Olympia, the June 30 deadline is a frequent thing. Another reminder, we usually ask for money, but you can't ask for policy changes. You just ask for a language request as well as a funding request. All 3 of our offices, both senators and the congresswoman, require 2 or 3 letters of support from community partners. So we need to have lead time on these decisions to get out there and get our partners to provide letters of support. Like for Vista Stadium, we had a lot of youth sports organizations, GSI stuff, the road projects up at the airport provided. So a lot of the normal groups you think of around town will provide letters of support. On the flip side, we often get asked for letters of support for their project in return. Already talked about make sure they're willing. Remember, particularly with Senator Murray being chair of appropriations, big deal in the appropriations world. We're not only limited to earmarks. She is very good at just increasing a line item in a way that's actually not called an earmark, but putting a proviso in the budget that says, you know, we're adding X amount of dollars and these dollars can only be spent for X products. As you see in Olympia, in a state that touches the Pacific Ocean and the Canadian border and has a population of such, so that it only works for Spokane. You know, so we want to definitely put forward some earmark requests, but at the same time, there's other ways to make asks. An example for that, put a Maddie's Place example, that's just an example of something that could happen. That's what I know you've talked about, but you know, she could plus up one of those and then require something such as that. Things that I've also noticed the last 2 years since I've been here, the senators and the congresswoman, they don't differentiate between the sheriff department and the commissioners and the medical examiner, the assessor, the auditor, or anybody else. So when they get something that comes from Spokane County, they assume we have our stuff together and we are unified. As is common in most places, different departments, different people have different priorities, particularly when it comes to separately electeds. Obviously, they can make whatever request they want. You have no jurisdiction there. When it comes to departments that report up to you, I would suggest you do have some jurisdiction there. Because one time I did mention to one of the offices, we didn't get any funding last year. Why not? And they go, oh, contrary, you did. The medical examiner got this and the sheriff got that. And it's like, oh, okay, duly noted. So just to the best of our ability, it'd be good to kind of know what others from the county are doing, particularly on the House side where there is a limit of 15 requests. I believe there's 12 counties, Pat, in the 5th Congressional right now. It keeps rotating, somewhere between 10 and 12. Usually, they're gonna try to get one in each county, which leaves maybe 1 or 2 for Spokane County. And I am talking about the geographic Spokane County, not us, Spokane County government. You know, back to Maddie's Place for an example. If they put in something for a Maddie's Place or the city, that's Spokane County in the eyes of that office, generally speaking. I did run this past John Colton to make sure he didn't think I was saying anything that wasn't quite accurate. I do think you need to keep your priority list at 3 maximum to have impact. We have 3 federal members. And so in the past, we have rotated our 3 requests. We've submitted all 3 to each office. Last year, for example, since only one of your 3 had a federal nexus, I put that as top priority to the Congress office, to the congressional. The other 2, based on what they were and which office I thought might have the most interest, we made one ask number 1 for Patty, 1 for Maria Cantwell, and they all get 2 and 3 as an also priority. Because you never know, they might not care for what we think they care for. And they, oh, we're actually interested in your 3rd priority. Let's talk about that. It is very common. Every year I've been here, I have received phone calls from all 3 offices following up on a request, asking for a bit more detail, you know, confirming that they qualify. If they're interested in one, they will often track down the rules for that particular, where it would get tucked in the federal budget and confirm that it meets everything. They don't want the egg on face, just as you guys don't want the egg on face of asking for something. It actually gets approved and then, oh, sorry, it doesn't qualify. We actually can't accept the support.
So, 15 in the House, 15 requests per member.
Per member.
And have they defined federal nexus?
It's up to the member's office to write a letter of how it meets that. Last year I received a phone call from the Congresswoman's office, and we talked through the Fairchild linkage, the fact that it's on an interstate highway. They felt that that was something that they could work with, so that's the one they put in. Obviously, the other 2 had 0 federal access.
So it's in the eye of the beholder, the congressional office.
But they also have to be comfortable either standing before the committee, the subcommittee of appropriations that deals with whichever budget, and make the case. Generally speaking, they have to make the case for sure at the subcommittee level, possibly at the full committee or the will of the House.
So they're not, the House is not taking any earmarks related to labor, health and human services, education. Does that
Correct.
include HUD?
No, HUD is in the T-HUD bill, number 12.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why transportation and HUD are together, but they are. So that's the one known as T-HUD. Labor was, I actually saw a list of the most frequent of these 12. And yeah, the number 8, the labor health, was one of the top requested in 23. And then if you look at 24, T-HUD and others moved up.
I was just gonna add to the legal question, country lawyer here, but federal nexus on each of the appropriations bills is defined in US code, and you can find those definitions. So for things that are like an infrastructure project, it pretty specifically spells out in there, you know, there's like at least 3 bullet points on that one. And we can probably get you that guide. So it's not subjective per se, there is a legal context around it. But generally, federal nexus means you need to make a good case for why this isn't a state responsibility, something the county, you know, let's say a bridge that has no interconnection with state highways or federal highways, just a county bridge, for instance, a small county bridge, that probably wouldn't have some kind of federal nexus as defined in the US code, so.
So are you guys up for me working with Gina to get Desmond Group on the agenda in the next couple of weeks? And then I'd ask each of you to bring your thoughts however you want to. I don't know if you guys want to have a group discussion, if you want them to be collected somewhere. I'm happy to be that point person. At some point, we need to get our thoughts to Desmond, get their opinion on what might tickle the fancy of one of our 3 delegation members, you know, what's actually open. You know, they might have some ideas on where it can get tucked in bills that could be helpful. There's all these drop-down boxes that I fill out every year, and you have no idea what I'm doing, because I don't know the 24 subcommittees of the interior budget very well. You know, so I just go with the one that makes the most sense to me, and then they call me and go, "Why'd you pick that one?" And I tell them I just told you. They go, "Well, it actually belongs in this one," but it makes as much sense as T-HUD going together. So unless you are an expert on it, we do count on them to help us fix a few of the pieces. I use common sense to the best of my ability when we fill out their 12-page forms.
These deadlines that they set up, as you can imagine, are designed to allow then the staff internally on the Hill to vet these a little bit further, to have these back and forth conversations. So, you know, it has been the case in the past, you missed the deadline, you're not getting your request in. But if you get something in and it's not perfect, you have some chances to revise it if the member or the senator is friendly towards your request. The other thing I think that will come up with DCG is the opportunity for programmatic requests, which are just existing pots of federal funds. Earmarks total less than, I think, 1% of the federal budget. And so it's a very, I mean, it's an there's some opportunity there for sure. But the programmatic requests, you may hear from interest groups or others who are looking for support on something, some kind of a letter of support. I don't know if the board has done those in the past. The third bucket would be language requests. So drawing a line around a certain bucket of funding that may be beneficial to an interest in the county or to some, you know, something in the state. And obviously, I think Jeff mentioned this at the top, but having the senator who has the chair of the appropriations committee is both good, but it also means that she may have other competing requests. And she'll have to obviously work with the members of that committee to get their requests in. So you may see other senators sponsoring things. She'll be taking care of her home state earmarks for sure. But if you're thinking about language and programmatic requests, the chairs oftentimes won't put in a lot of those requests themselves. They'll come through other areas. So just something to keep in mind if the staff's ever telling you to work with a different senator or a different member on a programmatic request.
I'd say we just bring Desmond and bring some ideas for priorities and whenever we can, next week or two.
Yeah, I'm asking for the availability either the next 2 weeks. We expect the window to open usually early March, give or take, but it'll be a 6-week window.
End of February, early March, they like to have the cycle in by end of April is traditional, and then the committees start marking up the bills in May.
Sometimes they extend. 2 years ago, each of the offices, I think they just wanted them in early and then they did a couple extensions. But we don't want to gamble on that. I think we should get our ducks in a row and be ready.
Is the board comfortable with having this possibly on a Monday morning strategic, depending on flexibility, since it's gonna be more of like a discussion, work session sort of thing?
I'd just say wherever, whenever they can, wherever they fit into our schedule. Okay, so.
There could be a longer discussion as they kind of brainstorm, whatever they're hearing on the Hill for where, let's try that programmatically, let's try this earmark.
They may want to share in their experience where they've had the most success or sort of from their view, best practices, sort of,
So I'll offer them, well, when's our next Monday?
It will be the 4th because we're off. 3rd is a holiday, 3rd Monday, so it's gonna be the
Until
26th.
Oh, 3rd Monday.
February. 4th Monday of this month, yes. When's the due date on these things, Jeff?
Well, they haven't even opened the window yet, but they usually do open into February, early March, and then we have about 6 weeks.
You can still work for that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Do you think the 26th, is that what we're talking about? Do you think that's too late? If they
I would
open in
prefer to
late
go
February?
earlier if we had time on a Tuesday. If it's a Tuesday like this, we'd have time. If it was a Tuesday like last week, we wouldn't. That's a crapshoot depending on what else is on the agenda.
Why don't we just take a look at the agenda, see where we have some opportunities in it, and if we can go earlier, we'll go earlier.
Yeah, it seems like maybe it's more of a strategic planning topic, but for timeline reasons, we might wanna try and get it earlier as long as we've got enough time on the schedule.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jeff. All right, the other agenda item under miscellaneous that we had was, so on last month, at the end of last month, we interviewed candidates for the Board of Health. So it was the 4 elected members, which is myself, Commissioner Cooney, Commissioner Waldrop, and Councilman Cathcart. We interviewed a number of people. I think it was 11 or 12 total individuals for the 3 different categories. And so we chose the 3 individuals that we're recommending to the Board of the County Commissioners to sort of affirm our recommendations on a consent agenda. Those 3 individuals are representing public health will be Monica Blakowski-May, who's an MD, Patricia Keenholz, who will represent the consumer of public health, and Charlie Daranona, who will represent community stakeholders of public health. So those are the 3 names that have been sent over from SRHD. So if we could get that on a consent agenda and get those individuals appointed before our next Board of Health meeting, that would be great. So, February 29th.
Do that.
Okay. So yeah, if we can get them on next week's consent agenda, that'd be great. Okay.
Just a question.
Yep.
So if it's on the consent agenda, if there's anybody in the community who wants to let us know their feedback, they'd need to contact us before, correct? Because the
Yeah.
consent, it would be a public hearing.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's the, in by noon on Monday. Any public comment? Any written comment?
Good. Okay. Any other miscellaneous items?
Meet cheerleaders.
What?
Meet cheerleaders.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you saw, the Meet Cheerleaders won state.
Wow.
I think we should
do something
We should,
about
we
that.
should do a proclamation
Yeah.
recognizing them, so.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and I guess it was 2nd year in a row. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So, any objection to that? We got 2 head nods. Commissioner French, do we have a head nod? All right, there we go. So,
Very good.
yeah, we'll get a proclamation worked up recognizing that achievement. So,
Awesome.
okay. Any other miscellaneous items? Commissioner French? Nope.
I've got an executive session item.
Oh, okay. It's like Scott and Chris.
Just quickly, if you recall, the beginning of last year, the commissioners had approved an interlocal agreement between the county and Broadlink. As Broadlink was standing up, they didn't have any administrative support staff. So the agreement basically allowed for the county to provide a loaned executive, some accounts payable, accounts receivable, fiscal and budget, legal, and some other ancillary services. It provided for a payment of a charge up to $200,000 a year for that. Now they've stood up, they've got their own legal, finance, accounts payable, all that sort of stuff. But they still do have a need for GIS services for helping to plot and do some data stuff for their broadband. So we do want to amend the agreement that just changes the services down from, eliminate all the other stuff and just highlight GIS services. So unless there's any questions or concerns, plan would be to put it on to consent for next week. It'll just be billed at whatever the internal costs are that Kevin Norris collects and tracks for supporting it. I think last year I think they're expecting it to be under $10,000.
Okay. All right. Then Chris?
A couple quick ones. We did receive from the city of Airway Heights, final statement on escrow. Airway Heights has approved the agreement yesterday evening at their agenda. The final escrow statement is $657,709.87. So just slightly higher than the December balance. Looks consistent. We can get this on either by leave this afternoon or next week. Board's preference. I know Airway Heights is kind of itching to go, but
Any objection to doing it by leave this afternoon?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, all right, we'll do it this afternoon then.
we'll have that ready.
Settlement agreement's ready.
Yep, all set.
Just get this finished.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the one other one, we do have another bankruptcy settlement to approve in relation to the opioid settlement. This one is for a company called Endo. They have bankruptcy proceedings currently active in both Ireland and the United States. It's basically the same bankruptcy breakdown. We can object or simply approve it. We've been approving these. Approving is generally the quickest way to get money. That is what the attorney, Keller Rohrbach, is recommending clients to do. So that is how we've been proceeding. I would say unless the board has specific concerns, if there are specific concerns, we would go into executive session and discuss more specifics, but we would advise simply following the course we've been on, and we will let Keller Rohrbach know that we approved.
Do we have to take any action, or can we just direct you to?
It's pursuant to litigation. This is kind of standard course, so.
Sounds good.
Just wanted to let everybody know what's going on.
Okay. All right. Okay, so you will queue up the by leave for this afternoon. Okay.
Yep.
Anything before we go to Commissioner French's executive session? Anything else? Anything from budgets? Anything around the room? Anybody else have anything? Okay.
Just a question,
Yep.
should we wait till the afternoon for exec sessions if we'll have all 5 present? I was gonna ask too.
What are your thoughts, Commissioner French? Would you rather have all 5 this afternoon?
Oh, sure, why not?
Okay.
So, yeah, there's no time sensitivity to it. I just want to have you be aware of some litigation that's in process.
Okay. All right, then we'll queue that up for this afternoon.
And I've got one too, wait for this to happen as well, I was hoping for the same thing, as many commissioners would be available.
Okay. All right, well, if there's nothing else for today, it is 11:13. We will be meeting back at 2 o'clock this afternoon for our consent agenda, so, but as far as this morning, we are adjourned. See you this afternoon.